Hey, welcome to another episode of the imagination industry. Okay, the question is, what does the future hold for creators? And in today's episode of the imagination industry, we are chatting to a creator and a trend forecaster, hitting two birds with one stone, and we'll be getting a view on the state of creator economy from the inside and from the outside. Let's go.
She's a business owner, a trend forecaster, consultant, a mentor startup. She's an author of newsletter that reaches, I think, 13,000 people right now. She does magic with words, I would say, both with written and spoken. And she has the most charming persona ever. Welcome to our podcast, Pavlína Louženská.
Hi, I'm blushing, and it's I think the first time somebody pronounced my name right, not being from my country. So congratulations, Maria. Now I'm blushing double.
And well,
Lovely
let's
to
get
have
out
you.
of our systems. We are friends. We've known each other for quite some time, so I'm really excited to have a friend on the podcast as well.
I love to hear it like on an official side that we're friends. I feel like we just posted the relationship status on Facebook or something.
Now there's no turning back.
Exactly.
Pavlína, dear, because we know that you're a trend forecaster, we couldn't start with anything else but the data, because I know that you're this like walking book of facts. So there was a lot of signals in the industry in 2025 that this year is going to be the year of the creator economy. Did that turn out to be true or not really?
Yes and no. I think we have been in the era of creator economy per se. If you consider that in 2003, MySpace started, 2008, Instagram started, I think we can really start counting the creator era since then. The COVID definitely was a big shift happening. Over 70% of creators started monetizing their content. So there was a big talk about monetization. And what we were seeing this year is, of course, the AI discussion. I'm pretty sure we will address that later, but also the creator burnout. So kind of like the darker side of creator economy. So not only the kind of how shiny, happy, and how you make a lot of money, but how there's also the darker side of things. So for me, yes and no. We have been talking about creator economy for the last 20 years, let's say, but like in the last, let's say, 5 years, it's been an intense talk.
And I just to comment on that, because you mentioned this dark patterns, and I think apart from burnout, there's also huge discussion about relationship with platforms themselves. Like the creative economy doesn't exist without the platform, and from that point of view, I'm thinking whether creators, you think they are individual business owners, founders, or they actually employees of platforms.
Yeah, definitely. I think like you see this pattern of what's the ultimate dream for a creator. It's actually to become independent from the platform. So for Mr. Beast, it's actually to start a chocolate brand. For Kylie Jenner, is to actually start a makeup brand. It's like everybody is trying to build a business that would not depend on the platform itself, because every week Adam Mosseri gets on the Instagram live and says, there's a new change and you need to post more and more and more and more and more, and you need to compete with more, and you need to have more platforms, and you can't be a YouTuber anymore. You need to be on Twitch, and you need to be on Instagram, and you need to be on 10 million things, and usually they demand more content than ever. So you suddenly you're posting nonstop. So the ultimate dream of a creator is actually to be, I think, a small business owner and to be independent from the platform.
Just to continue that conversation about the platforms, my question was, obviously, we are all platform dependent. How much of a success of a creator today boils down to the raw talent?
Yeah, of course, there's raw talent, but there's also right time, right place. You know, if you were Edison Ray or Charlie D'Amelio dancing in your bedroom in 2019, you know, then obviously you went back at a certain point. If you were doing YouTube at the same time that Mr. Beast was starting, you obviously went back. You know, the reason why I do have a lot of followers on X, for example, because I was among the first 100 people in the Czech Republic who were on that platform. So naturally, every person from the Czech Republic that was joining Twitter at that time started following me. You know, I do have a lot of followers on Instagram, like because I was one of the first people here. So it's kind of like is raw talent. There is also a playbook, definitely, like that you need to follow. You know, I think Mr. Beast is a great example. Victoria Paris would be another example. Like there's so many great examples, but at the same time, it's the right time, right place. You know, joining the platform that is growing, that is going to be sustainable. Maybe you were right time, right place for Be Real, but then you choose the wrong platform. So there's a combination of things, really.
So like a distribution mindset should always be there.
Exactly. And I think it's like, for me, the key to a good creator is definitely this entrepreneurship mindset. I think like we're using basically the same playbooks you would be for using when it comes to building a startup. So what who's your ICP, you have a very niche ICP, you understand the scalability, you understand the distribution models, you understand like how you want to monetize different type of audiences. So it's kind of like this entrepreneurship mindset where you are constantly reacting to how market is changing, where you can find new distribution models, new kind of channels to talk to your audience, and new ways to monetize your audience. And I think if we look at the past, let's say 15 years, you were constantly changing that. You know, at some point, like you were great on Facebook, and then you moved to Instagram, and then you moved to TikTok, and all around the time you were constantly changing, piloting, and pivoting. And I think that is kind of the key mindset for me.
I think like you as a creator, because like you are creator. Yes, when all of that I've mentioned, you are also very much creator, and you have your own specific style. I usually go and translate your newsletter, so now I'm very happy with AI, so I can have, I think, quite good translation. So obviously I don't know all the nuances because you create in Czech mostly. Yes, this is the mostly like the language you are using, but you are kind of recognizable, I would say. If someone would read a piece of yours, I think that if I get a piece of newsletter that wasn't written by you, I would know that this is you. But in the same, I think, okay, you are doing this for quite some time already. Is it like very something you designed, something you are actually taking care of, or this is just happened by accident? And also, do you feel like maybe you would like to change some style and change how you communicate and how you reach out to people, but you cannot because you have this, this persona that is built and people are looking for this kind of Pavlína. And I don't know, maybe you already outgrown your audience and you would like to try some different stuff, but algorithms and how are you managing this sphere of your creativity?
I think it's funny when you say it's some kind of a given thing, because for me, it was exactly this huge transformation. You know, how my newsletter started. When it started, it was not a newsletter. It was a series of Facebook posts. I called them clickables. And it was like basically a list of 6 interesting articles I read that week. And they were mostly focused on fashion because at the time I used to work in fashion. So, and later on, they became bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, I said, maybe I would start posting those things on Tumblr. So I started a Tumblr account. It was like ages ago. And then I started posting those clickables on that. And then at some point I said, I want to kind of like comment more, or why people should read those things. So I added like more content to it. But I know you don't believe it, because now like my average newsletter would be about like 20,000 words, but at the beginning it was like this, like tiny. And then at some point, when I had a certain, again, audience, I put it in my Gmail. I typed addresses of some of my friends and I said, hey, I was thinking I would send you my favorite links and they would start kind of like subscribing. And then I went into this platform called Tiny Letter, which is like for small newsletter creators. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I when people said like, I have a newsletter, I was like, I don't have a newsletter. I have this like funny thing for my friends where I share articles I like, but like nothing really like at some point. And then they started growing and growing and growing. And I think there were a few moments that kind of like defined this creator journey. And one was when I got a notification from the Tiny Letter and it said, you have too many subscribers to be with us. And you have to switch, like we don't support people who have over 5,000 subscribers. I was like, fuck, I need to go somewhere else, and I started researching and I went into Substack. And there was another thing when my friend Vojta, who's a VC, he called me at a certain point and he said, Pavlína, you should monetize. And I was like, fuck you, Vojta, I don't want to do it. Like, I feel like stupid, I can make my money elsewhere. Yeah, exactly. Maria knows Vojta really well, and she knows he's a very persuasive person, And Vojta called me and he said, like, open it. And I said, yeah, I want to try it, but Vojta will be the only paying person, so it will be shameful. And like, so I opened it, and like within like 24 hours, I had like about 50 subscribers. I was like, fuck, there's something happening, and this is kind of like things where, and then like, I don't know, Vogue published an article with the best newsletters in the Czech Republic, and I was featured. I was like, did you make a mistake or is there a problem? It's kind of like, I think my creator journey is not at all intentional in a way. It is like, it somehow happens, and I think like my content is writing things that I'm interested in. My ICP is myself. I'm interested in certain words, certain themes, certain topics, and so on. Even though, honestly, there was one transformation I did on purpose. I think like 3-5 years ago, I would be writing more about like girl power and what it means to be a woman and self-confidence. And it was part of my professional journey. I felt I kind of needed to hear that and so on. And now I don't write about it. I'm more business oriented. So like, I think like 3-5 years ago, most of my subscribers would be women of a certain age, Now it's a lot of men, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people, a lot of people who nowadays mention me and recommend me. They say, she's the business newsletter. She's not the female confidence newsletter. So, and I did that switch intentionally, honestly, because not only I was not interested in it, but I felt like I needed it in order to support the rest of my business.
I think we talked about this. If I can ask you a bit more about that, because we also talked about events for women, and it's not our topic that itself, but we also want to attract more women into business, into creative business. How do you think we can support that and we can do that? Because we all kind of feel that female-oriented events and programs, sometimes they miss the point. Yeah, sometimes they are not supporting in the end. So how do you think we can actually, what's the good way of supporting women in business?
Two things. Yesterday, it wasn't yesterday, but last week, I saw Sanna Marin, the Finnish Prime Minister, on stage, and she was asked the question how we could get more women in leadership, how we can get more women, in our teams and so on. And she kind of like smiled back and she said, hire them, promote them. And it felt like, yeah, sure. Like, like, yeah, let's stop discussing that. Let's put actions in there.
And I do agree with that completely, but that means that's for people who are already there. So for people who are already successful, and that's a great advice. You want to do something, just do it. Let's not discuss.
But
yeah.
I think what you were pointing out, and there's one kind of like a topic I've been thinking a lot lately, because I have been very active when it comes to like feminism and feminist movement in the Czech Republic. And I realized that what doesn't work for us anymore are those women for women conferences only, or women for women workshops, or women for women everything. Because what you truly need is not a mentor, but a sponsor. You need somebody who is going to say, this is Irina, she is the best advertising person I know, hire her. And that person is usually man, somebody who's in power, who's able to vouch for you, who's kind of like, I'm not interested in advice what book I should read or how I should deal with my imposter syndrome. Fuck it, I'm not interested. I'm interested into somebody who's able to give me an introduction, who's able to give me a job, who's able to kind of like tell me, hey, monetize that newsletter, and that is kind of like what's making the difference. And if we do it like within small spaces and discussing, and there's another kind of thing I'm thinking a lot, there's this Bechdel test. If women discuss men, it's like kind of it's from the movies, and it's a Bechdel test. If like all the female characters, when they're left alone, if they start discussing men, if that's kind of the theme. And I think like somehow I feel like if we are discussing the imposter syndrome most of the time, then we are not discussing how to do the distribution, how to do the scalability, how to do the business model, and then we are lacking those hours. We are like pushing ourselves behind because we are not investing the time that we should be discussing certain things.
We are not growing the skills we should, actually. We are not
exactly. So yes, of course, like the discussion about, I don't know, career and motherhood, it's important, but I want to discuss also career and parenthood. I want to discuss like, I want men to be asked how to get more women on stage. I want men to be asked how do they handle career and family. I want that, but I get to answer all those questions myself.
Cool, I love
Sorry,
that.
I get angry about it all the time.
No, but that's why I asked, because I think that there is transition time also in that sphere. And it's a good advice to every woman that thinks how to get to the creative economy. Ask for sponsorship, ask for someone who can introduce you to someone who can help you start your business, not to read another book in a way.
Exactly. Get yourself a Voita who will start shouting at you if you don't monetize your podcast, or if you don't like monetize your newsletter.
Let's go to before Voita times for a second. So we've been friends for, I think, more than 9 years now. And I think that gave us the gift of seeing each other grow and going in different directions. And that is a beautiful thing for a friendship, right? And when I first met you, Pavlína, I think you weren't a creator back then, or you weren't identified as a creator back then, for sure. So I just wanted to get to that moment because, again, even before Voita, something made you start posting your clickables on Facebook. Something made you begin that creator journey. So what was that? How did that happen? And was that a deliberate choice, or again, it was just, I don't know, a calling one day?
Hey, maybe like two things that would give a context why I am a writer. I think I would consider myself a writer instead of a creator, but I studied literature at university. It was my major. I was focused on that. I wanted to be a professional literary critique. I wanted to be a translator. Even before that, during my high school, I was heavily praised by my teachers. Everybody encouraged me to go and do the writing. And for me it was definitely like some kind of an important journey because I'm dyslexic. When I was like 8 years old, they told me I could like never finish school because I'm so bad when it comes to languages, and they told me I will never learn a foreign language because my brain just doesn't work like that. And then I was like, fuck you, I'll show you. I was kind of and it kind of like got me on that journey, and I have been writing ever since. So if my words seem really good, it's because I've been writing for last 30 years. I have like invested so much time into that. And at the beginning of my career, I was an English teacher, but later I went into PR, copywriting, writing SEO tags. So you really kind of like get the hand into it. Like, yeah, I can start teaching a course on creative writing, but that's nothing like, it's 30 years of experience when it comes to my writing. So for me, writing is something that's very easy for me.
If Vojta would be here, he would say, yes, sell the course. Yes, like create it and start selling it, Pavlína.
Yeah, I know.
I think this.
I don't want to. Maybe one day, but I don't want to for now. And it's so for me, like to express myself through writing has always been a natural thing, and it's kind of like I want to kind of put a more general perspective. Sometimes people come to me and say, hey, I want to be a creator, I want to build this personal brand, which is often interconnected somehow. And I always tell them, find a channel, find an expression that's most natural to you. And I know, Ira, for you, for example, the podcasts are the most natural thing. And so you would be doing podcasts. And for me, it's the writing. And for my other friend, it's the short videos, like with the funny sketches. And I can't do podcasts, I can't do funny sketch videos, but I can do the writing. So I think it's like about understanding yourself and finding kind of type of expressions that you can be consistent in. Because like when it comes to my creative journey, I do it in my free time. I do it on my Sundays. I do it when I'm tired. And I love it. And I would always choose it to do it. And it would give me energy. If I'm super tired at night at the airport, I would still go and write, because this is how I regain my energy. And I think this is what you need to find in your creator journey, to find that like thing, because only because of that I can deliver the newsletters as often as I do, in the length that I do, and I know I can promise to my subscribers that this is something that is going to happen in 5-10 years from now.
I will actually comment on that, because one of the questions was inspired by our discussion in Madrid 2 years ago at night. We were having some fun night, and we started having those creative questions. And one of the questions was, imagine you don't have to sleep at all. How would you use this extra time? So Ira said that she will be creating music, and you said, I would write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's happening for you. Yes, you are writing, or you already finished writing a book. Which is very much what you just said. You are a writer. This is your way of expressing yourself. But I wonder, is it a different writing when you write a book and when you write a newsletter, or when you write, shorter pieces? Like, is this the same shoes you wear, or this is different energy, different focus? A lot of people writing books tell how hard it is, actually, like how painful it is to put your thoughts on a longer medium.
I have this great luxury of having my own voice that's in demand. So even if I write for a magazine like Elle Magazine or Wired, they accept my own voice. They hire me for my own voice. I don't need to adjust my voice. And if I get hired for keynote speeches, they are hiring me because they know how I write and they want me to speak like that. So it's kind of like when I'm writing a book, I don't need to adjust that much because they're hiring me for who I am. And I think that's kind of like that's very different than when I didn't have that voice, when I didn't have that name, and I would need to adjust myself to that brand that I was writing for, or to that medium that I was writing for.
So I guess what we are saying is that a creator's personality, or writer's personality, musician's personality, is transmedia, right? Whichever channel
Yes.
you're working with, whichever medium you're choosing, it's still your essence there, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, of course, like, if I'm posting something on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or newsletter, I would be choosing a tiny different like tweaks, like on LinkedIn, you wouldn't include the links directly in the text. When I'm writing a newsletter, I know I can use the English quotes. In normal magazines, I wouldn't use the English quotes. I would need to translate them, but those are like tiny bits. I don't count those, but it's kind of like having a consistent voice that's recognizable. That's like Maria, you said you would recognize my writing everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of like it's the same is on Twitter, where you have like 140 I don't know how many it is these days, and or if it's a newsletter with 20,000 words.
Going back to another conversation that we had in person some time ago, you once mentioned that your life of a public person, like trend forecaster, keynote speaker, creator, writer, made it almost impossible for you to be employed by a company with a regular 9 to 5. I was surprised by that because I felt like, okay, why would you even have these thoughts? Why be such a profile? So why is that so? And do you consider that a certain challenge or a limitation in your life?
It's like, I'm handling so many projects at the same time, and a lot of people maybe would introduce themselves as newsletter writers if they had such a platform that I have, but I don't introduce myself like that because I do have other things that I consider bigger or more important. So it's kind of like funny for me, and I do have like 6 projects running in the air. So I can imagine, like, and when I was talking to HR, they would be like, oh, we don't want you to get rid of those projects. We like those projects. We want to keep on reading newsletters, so we don't want you to work on the innovation projects we have here or so on. And plus, we don't trust you to give up those things because you like ooze such an enthusiasm and that you love it so much that we don't trust you. You would give it up for work in a bank or an insurance company or something like that. And for me, honestly, it's kind of always like back and forth in my head. Every 6 months, I'm like, I really want to work in a big company. I want to have HR to take care of me. I want to, kind of like have the colleagues, and I want to have the kitchen corner, and I want to kind of like be a part of bigger projects. And I sometimes, feel like I want to build something huge. And at the same time, I love the freedom that I have. I love the fact that I can work with exciting people. And, one day I would be working with IKEA, another day I would be working with a bank, another day I would be working with a Nestle, another day I would be working with a medtech startup from Africa. And that probably doesn't happen if you work with like certain companies. But I do miss those people, I do miss team buildings. I do miss everything that people usually hate about working for companies. I miss the dress code, I want to kind of like wear heels to the office and like kind of do the selfies, what I wear for the office a day. I don't know. It's kind of like, I miss that.
Next time you're coming to me to London, I'm just taking you to my office for a week, and you do all of those things in buildings,
No,
kitchens,
please.
free bananas.
One of the trends on TikTok recently was this like corporate core, where like the Gen Zs would pretend that they work in a corporate and they would dress up like you work in a corporate. And I very much vibe with that trend. I am that trend, I pretend to work in a corporate to walk my dog in order to buy the clothes.
Earlier you mentioned that this whole journey kind of happened to you. So it was one step at a time and you were making the decisions as they were unfolding. But on the other hand, when we are talking or we are working with startups and mentoring them, I kind of feel that you have such a deep reflection on how work and business works. Like you see those relationships, those mechanisms. And I wonder if you had any advice kind of or reflection or what creators this day or young business founders, startup founders should unlearn or what the misconception they have about building community, building audience, building online brands.
I'm writing down so I don't forget. There are 3 things that I see often and that are quite shitty when it comes to creator journey. I think first one is when people come to me and they say, "Oh, I want to start a newsletter because I see your success. I want to copy paste basically what you're doing, and that's what I'm starting now." And it's kind of like find your own voice. Find. I have talked about it. Find what kind of serves you, what feels for you. The fact that I have gained success writing a newsletter doesn't mean it would be a good one. Probably for me, it was also the right time, right place. Maybe starting a Substack now wouldn't be such a right time, right place for you because it's already 2 years later. So maybe there's another platform, another expression for your voice. So don't try to like copy paste people, even though, yes, I do have my own inspiration. And there are a few people that I love when it comes to, for example, newsletter writing. And I've been following their journey. And it's kind of like, I don't know, Derek Thompson, for example. He's a former Atlantic writer. He writes a newsletter that's really great. And I would always look how he talks to his subscribers, how he monetizes his community, or Lenny's newsletter. He's one of the biggest newsletters in the world, and the way, but now I'm like developing for my subscribers this like list of subscriber benefits. So whenever you subscribe to my newsletter, you would get free ebooks and you would get discounts and you would get this and this and this. And it's basically modeled on his example. So it's kind of like, it's not copy pasting his thing. It's just like kind of having, and that's the second thing, having a North Star always helps. And I've always had it in my career that I had a North Star that somehow seemed impossible. And when I worked in PR in fashion, I was like, I'm going to be head of digital at Burberry. And it was such a North Star thing. And I was telling everybody, it was so annoying. Every person I would meet, I would be like, I'm going to work at Burberry. And, at some point, people would start introducing me to people at Burberry to get rid of me. And it was so good. And then I got introduced. I found out I don't want to work there, really. Then I found another North Star. And but I think it's always good to kind of have this thing. And when I'm thinking about my newsletter now, maybe it's the Derek Thompson thing, or maybe it's the like Lenny's newsletter thing, and it kind of helps me to shape that thing. So that's definitely a thing. And also like understanding the context of things. Like I understand how my trend forecasting work intersects with my creator work, and like that are not projects that are separate. But when I, for example, write about something, then I would usually do it because I was researching something for my clients, and then I would use it in my keynotes. And it's kind of like understanding what it does. And every time I sent a newsletter, I would get actually approached by a company saying, hey, can you consult for us, because we love your newsletter. So for me, it's a deal flow, the newsletter of new clients. So really trying to understand how it's going to serve you and what it's supposed to do for you, but at the same time constantly changing it in a way it would work, because you can never sit on an empty field and say that is going to be a skyscraper, and like 10 years later the skyscraper looks exactly the same as the day you planned it when you were sitting on that like blank field that only happens in the movies. But like you have this vision of the skyscraper, but then you kind of like start adjusting it based on what's kind of coming and going for you and works for you and not, and what's and I have done so many things that I had a great vision for and they didn't work out. Like so many things. Like to give you an example, I had this vision that like I would have so many other writers for my newsletter, and that there would be like voices coming every week. And then I did a pilot newsletter, and people sent me a message, hey, we're subscribing to you because we like your voice, we hate other people, we don't want that. It was kind of like such a wake-up call. And okay, good. At some point that was my vision. I realized it's not working. Lesson learned. I'm doing something else. So it's kind of
The way you're talking about your world, there are so many things that you're juggling, and there is so much work, hard work in your creativity. And I imagine it's a common theme for creators. There's hard work behind every creator. So you mentioned this already, creative burnout. What's that? Is that a real thing? And do we notice that on a larger scale in 2025? Or like, how is that changing? And how does that work?
I feel it on myself, kind of this like I constantly have this pressure of what I should be doing. You know, I should be writing more. I should be doing funny reels about it. I should start a TikTok. I should probably start a Twitch. There are so many shoots. And especially if you're more interested in like how marketing works, how platform works, how creator economy works, you understand the shoots and you know they are good shoots, like they would work in case like I know if I started a TikTok it would work, and it would bring me money and advertisers and so on. Or if I started a YouTube, yes it would work and so on. So there's so many shoots which you are pretty sure you should be doing but you shouldn't. I shouldn't, because I would end up in a mental hospital. Honestly, like it's a trade off big between like getting free lipsticks from L'Oreal and ending up in the mental health hospital. And so far, I'm like choosing not to end up here, but maybe one day I will choose the lipsticks, which would be totally understandable, and I would go through that creator burnout. But that is, and I think it's like kind of a lot of creators go through this, and a lot of creators that I talk to go through those shoots. And especially like, and it's not only a shoot about starting a TikTok, but it's a shoot of if I posted 5 times a day, I would perform better. If I, replied to every person, I would perform better. And and there is like this, there's always something to do more, and that's super stressing. And suddenly you realize that you are not having any holidays, and that you are at your friend's birthday party and you're thinking about shooting content. And whenever I would meet with my friends for coffee and we would start gossiping, at some point we would come to that a point where they would say, please don't mention it in your newsletter. There's kind of a like and there are moments that are kind of like you are constantly aware of the creator possibilities, and when you encounter a fun thing, you should post it on Twitter, and you should post your dog, and you should post your boyfriend. And it's kind of like, I think it's really, really difficult to kind of have a work-life balance if what works the best on social media is life.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about that, because it's one thing is creating more and publishing more and doing more stuff of that it's connected to your topic, to your theme, but the other is showing your private life. And you have one Instagram, as far as I know, or maybe not. You will tell us more about that. But there is you don't post that much about your private life. There are some small glimpses. Oh, I've been here for holidays or something like that, but not everyday meal, everyday detail. When some of the examples of the creators you've mentioned, this is how they build themselves, for showing everything, every detail of their life. And I wonder, do you ever consider, like, is it a border you will not cross? This is the very conscious decisions, I don't want to cross that, or this is just learning and doing and flirting with that?
More things. I do have more Instagrams, honestly. My dog has an Instagram.
I remember the moment I asked that question, I remember that we talked about it, that you do have more Instagrams. So
I do have more.
So sorry for revealing that truth now, because people will be looking for you.
No, it's not like there's some kind of a secret Finsta where you could see my boyfriend, but there is an Instagram dedicated to my dog. So I wouldn't punish people that are not interested in dogs so much. Then I have for my businesses and projects Instagrams as well, but I don't have the typical like Finsta thing. I don't post my personal stuff that much. I think I'm trying to respect the privacy of my friends, and I'm trying to respect the privacy of my family and my partner, because I think like my boyfriend would be okay if I posted him to 30 people, but I'm actually posting him to 30,000 people. And it's suddenly like, I think there should be your own like decision. Like it's yes, him asking for it or not, but also like my own like decision, like, hey, I don't want to maybe do it to people around me. Like, so probably I would be posting about like our trip to Budapest or our trip to London, but I feel like, should I really be posting like the contents of Irina's apartment to 30,000 people? Probably I shouldn't. You know, I think like you need to keep your own ethics like in that, or I should ask about it. And I don't want to be asking my friends like, hey, can I post your apartment? So I rather don't. So it's kind of like, I think like I'm kind of censoring myself in that sense. First thing. And a second thing, I know like people who follow me would be interested more if I started posting the personal stuff. And at some point in my life, I was posting the personal stuff a lot, actually, you know. And then I found people who felt like they should be mimicking me also in the personal stuff, you know, because they wanted to have my own career journey. So they felt like they should be also joining the personal journey. And somehow I felt that is really weird. Like, to give you an example, and I, you both know that like I'm struggling with health a lot, and especially that part I'm not posting, you know. And then people would think, hey, so that lifestyle she has, the kind of thing, this is like what I want, but you don't see the dark side of things. And I don't want to discuss the dark side of things here. Yes, I'm okay with like posting a certain level of things, but I don't want to take you with me to the hospital where I'm more often than not. So for me it's really like, if you want to follow me for what I do, yes, that's great. But if you want to follow me for like kind of understanding how often I fight with my boyfriend, then there are other people to follow. I know it would work, but I don't.
On that note, like it's really cool that you say that you are protective of your friend. Also, you are quite giving, and that's just such a nice thing. Example: one day I launched my own Substack. It's just a fun thing that I'm experimenting with. And one day I saw a Czech invasion in my newsletter. People just started following my newsletter for no reason whatsoever. I was like, okay, what did I do? Because it started like, growing from 5 people to, I don't know, 500. It was just that many. And then I realized, and I opened Pavlína's newsletter, and in the first sort of line of the newsletter, she was like, okay, and here's my friend Irina who's writing about creativity. It was the most marvelous giving act of recent times, and I was so grateful. And that's such a cool thing, to, I don't know, like respect the privacy of your friends, but also if you see that your friends are doing something really cool, and it's not just a girl power, it's a power of, I don't know, friendships and creators supporting each other and everything. So that is really great.
I think it's like, if you have a platform, I feel like I should be using it for something great. I have always wanted to have followers, not to kind of like get lipsticks for free. I'm not getting the lipsticks for free anyway because I'm not posting that type of content, but like to give a voice for people who don't want it, who don't have it. Like, I have always wanted to have 10,000 followers on Instagram, because then you can put a link in there, and then you can start linking articles of your friends or some NGOs or something. So for me, it's like, if I have a platform, I want to highlight what cool stuff is happening, the cool brands, cool startups, cool everything. And I'm not using any affiliate in my newsletter. I'm not using any promotional links. I'm not I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I know I could. I know I could make a lot of money, but I'm not doing it.
I like to think about what you're doing, that you help people think better by, by reading and curating, I think, interesting content. You help people think better. But I wonder, how does writing help you, and in what way writing or this creative process is not helping you? Like, maybe even putting it a different way, what kind of help you need at this stage of your life? What's the thing that could help you to to grow more as a person, as a creator?
Okay, I will start with how it helps me. I'm really influenced by the work of 37 Signals and everybody who basically says that the writing culture is the entrepreneurship culture. For me, writing things down gives me clarity in my life. And if I'm thinking about the state of creator economy, if I'm thinking about female rage, I'm writing it down to kind of like get my thoughts straight. And I can be discussing it, but that's not really thing. Like really, like if I'm writing my newsletter, I would be spending weeks on that and really doing research and so on. And once I have it finished, I do have an argument ready. I do have something that I can present, I can talk about, and so on. And if you, for example, see me giving keynotes or sitting in the panels, it's usually like I'm only quoting what I have researched. And therefore it sounds cool. So it really gives me a clarity of choices. And I think like where I would love to employ the writing more is about in my personal life, because so far I've been using it for like, to develop an argument for creator economy, but not really an argument or if I should get a second dog or not. But so that might be a cool thing to do. But like otherwise, like it's really like it's giving me the clarity of thought. And I always say that I write the newsletter mostly for myself, to give myself the clarity of thought, to do my own research about a certain topic, to kind of like remember the words. Because if I write an essay about it, then I remember the numbers, then I remember the arguments, and I can start quoting them and sound smart, and make money on it. So that's good. Like that's always good. Where I think I'm lacking a lot, I'm always looking for some kind of a sparring partner. And being a creator is a lonely journey. And because you have only a few people who truly understand what you're going through, for a lot of people, what I'm kind of dealing with might sound like a first world problem. Oh, your problem is that you have too many followers. Your problem, it's kind of, you sound like a cocky bastard saying that. But like, you do need somebody who you could discuss it with. Like, should I go next this way or should I go next this way? And to really have a partner to debate it. And out of all those shoulds, which you should choose, or if you shouldn't choose anything, and a lot of the time it's quite a lonely journey. And I do have a team. I have a girl who's helping me with research. I have a team who's checking my grammar. I have people who read it before I publish it to make sure that it's not kind of a stupid thing what I'm writing. But at the same time, it's kind of, this is a team, but you often, like, what you're missing is this like partner who's on your level, and that's very depressing at some point.
So how do you battle this creative loneliness? Do you have that sparring partner?
I think yes and no. I do have this like within my team. I do have it like in my boyfriend. I do have it in my friends, but that's like kind of, I do get that lonely. And then I sent a CV to that big bank and say, hey, can you employ me, and can I go on the team building with you? And they said no. And then I go back and then we start again.
It's a circle.
Yeah, and then we circle. And so
But I kind of emphasize with that, because I just thought it's same. I myself think about myself as an entrepreneur, and I have multiple business projects, but from time to time think maybe I should just go and find a regular job and finish all that misery. And but in the same time, you don't want that. Actually, the truth is you don't want that.
It's not a
You want-
solution. Like that's why. Right?
It's kind of like, there was the one moment when I was talking to my therapist, and she said, so you mentor about 300 people a year, but who's your mentor? And I realized that I haven't had mentor for ages, but I've been mentoring all those people, and kind of like, and at the same time, I'm not sure who to choose. Like, and it's like, not sure really, like kind of like, Yeah, I'm being very.
We need to
careful with
start
that.
a community of all
Smart
the
shit
guests.
society. How many
Of
times?
all,
Yes.
I was thinking more of all the guests we will have on the imagination industry, because they will be all creators, and maybe that will be interesting for
Oh,
them,
that's great.
for all of you to share different points of view. Because as you mentioned, creator will understand other creator. That's also a thing. Yes, like some people are not able to understand the process you are going through.
Okay, to nicely wrap things up, Pavlína, I can't miss the opportunity to ask you about the future of creator economy. So, what's in store for us? What's going to happen by, let's say, 2030? And what's going to surprise us the most?
Honestly, 230 is too far ahead to make any prediction in this space.
Okay.
Like, look how much happened in the last 2 years when it comes to AI. 2 years ago, we had the shitty videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti, and now it's like so photorealistic you wouldn't guess.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, what can happen? Like 2027, maybe we're burning this world down and nothing happens in 2030. The world doesn't exist. So, but I think like what we will see is a huge intersection of AI into the current discussion about creator economy. You already see the fake OnlyFans models that are being done by AI. You see the Amurath, one of the biggest OnlyFans creators. She charges $36 for a voicemail that is being recorded by AI in her own voice. So we will see, and it's, you always look at porn when you want to see the future. So it's kind of like you see a lot of like what's happening with OnlyFans creators, how they have the professional chatters, how they have the like kind of like how they use AI in order to fulfill fantasies of every single person, seeming personalized but being basically like done by AI. I think we will see a lot of that. So it's kind of like more of that personalization, maybe even driven more into this niche content in order to drive monetization, because we see it already with the gamers. 1 to 2% of gamers drive 80% of the revenue of the gamer fans drive 80% of the revenue. So you need to really double down on the niches. And even with the polarization and publification of the internet, we will see a lot more of that, like kind of whispering into your ear. And we are having that special conversation, we are having that special relationship. And yes, we will be using AI for that heavily, I think. And we will see a lot of the fact that everyone is a creator. We see it already with the personal brands. We see it already with like people having copywriters for LinkedIn, even though they're not creators, or like celebrities. We will see a lot of this like cyberpunk, everybody is a brand thing.
Thank you so much. We have 3 last questions as a dessert. So they are very short. It's just, shoot an answer. First money you ever earned?
I was taking phone calls in my dad's insurance company, and I redirected everybody to HR because I thought everybody was having personal problems, and therefore it's a personal department. And then I almost got fired for that.
One big thing you hate about being a creator?
The world of shoots, the possibilities that are there and are great, and you're always thinking about them.
Who are you following? 3 creators.
Derek Thompson, Ezra Klein, and Zoe Scammon.
Zoe Scammon for the win.
Yes. She follows me on Twitter.
Ooh,
nice. I saw her live once. And it was
I think I was love bombing her, and that's why she started following me back. I became this one of the stalking people. But yeah, I do love her, and and I think she's an example of how you can share your personal life, but also kind of making something bigger out of it. So she's definitely a blueprint.
Thank you so much, Pavlína. Thank you for being with us, and see you soon.
See you. Ciao. Thank you.